Earlier today, we heard about the importance of solidarity here at home from the President of the APWU. Now it's time to consider the importance of international solidarity. The Postal Service has not been spared by globalization. It's not just a major international shipper, it's increasingly governed and threatened by the rules that are developed by global organizations like the Universal Postal Union, the World Trade Organization, the ILO, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. And what happens in other postal services can often affect us here at home. Think of the growing trend towards privatization and deregulation in Europe and elsewhere. Or think of the effort, which thankfully is now stalled, to end door-to-door delivery in Canada. To help us learn from other postal unions and to work with them to influence the new rules governing the global economy, NALC is proud to be affiliated with our global federation, UNI Global Union, and its post and logistics sector. Today, we are very lucky to have the General Secretary of UNI Global Union, Philip Jennings, with us. Philip grew up in Cardiff, South Wales, the son of a union auto worker and a store clerk. He graduated from Bristol Polytechnic with a business studies degree, followed by a master's in industrial relations from the London School of Economics. Philip has been General Secretary of UNI Global Union since its creation on January 1st of 2000. He pioneered the negotiation of global framework agreements to win organizing and collective bargaining rights for workers employed by multinational companies. To date, UNI has negotiated more than 50 global agreements with leading multinationals. Excuse me. UNI membership and influence continues to grow, and the organization, which represents the services sector, has 20 million members in 150 countries and 900 unions. He brings the voice of UNI affiliates and postal workers to global institutions and fights for working people every day at the World Trade Organization, at the UN, and even at Davos. We are happy to have Philip back to our convention for the first time since the year 2000 in Chicago. Brothers and sisters, please welcome Phil Jennings to Los Angeles.
Just a bit of promotion for the stand at the back there. Thank you, Fred. And can I first of all congratulate you on the excellence of those videos. You are all heroes. You are beautiful. You are community. You are people. You are neighbors. You get the job done. You make this world a better place. Thank you. I've got one job to do. I was in a long line at Los Angeles airport yesterday after a very long flight. And I gave my passport over, and the woman looked at me behind the desk, put her glasses down and said, "Sir, what are you doing here?" To which I replied somewhat nervously, as you can see, I'm a very nervous kind of guy. I said, "Madame, I am here to address the convention of the letter carriers of the United States of America." And she said, well, what do you do? And I said, I am the voice of every single letter carrier on the planet. She then said she loved me. And I said, madam, I love you too. Does this mean with the change of president, you will let me back in the country? She said, you'll always be welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I got some information for you which is top secret. This is not one of those WikiLeaks numbers. Fred Ronaldo, you know that guy? Okay. He talks about Florida, probably talks about some Italian blood somewhere. I can tell you that your Fred is 25% Welsh. I don't know, most of you probably don't know what Wales, or like you say, Wallace. Oh, you're from Wallace. Wales. I am from Wales. I am 100% Welsh. That does not make me 4 times better than Fred. But there's something about Welsh people which is goddamn good. Very good. Even at 25% good. We are the first nation with the first minister that brought universal health care to its people. We have the highest union density practically anywhere in Europe. We have our own language called Welsh. We have some of our own singers, Tom Jones. And apparently, Fred, upon request, will be quite happy. I'm not sure what he would sing, whether it's the green, green grass of home or Sex Bomb, it's his choice. But where I'm from, we have our own language and we have these terms of endearment. And one of the terms is, if you're a good friend, if you're a brother, you call somebody boyo. Can you say that? Boyo? Boyo. Boyo. So, from now on, when your distinguished president speaks, he should be known as Fred Boyo Ronaldo. Okay. Motion adopted. Motion adopted. I see no lights at the corners here. Motion adopted. Fred Boyo Ronaldo, welcome to the world. It's a great honor for me and a privilege to be able to speak to you in front of such a large and dynamic Congress. You must know this. This is one of the biggest union gatherings in the world. This is the largest single example, the only example where, is it 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 people are in a room and they're all letter carriers. A world record, sisters and brothers. It's great. It's great to be in the United States of America. It's great to be in California. It is great to be in a union town, in a union city. So we thank all our, they're all golden here. I don't know if you can see them at the back. We got this golden team down the front here. All our sisters and brothers from California. Yeah, but before you get too carried away, California, I got some news for you. There is a congressman from California. He apparently is the richest congressman in the Congress, and I can therefore say he is comfortably in the 1%. I think you're familiar with him. I can't pronounce his name correctly, but I think it's called Darrell Issa. Sorry, sir. I know. I'm not sure about the catering, sir, but it hasn't had a good impact on you. Confession time. I have met Darrell. Okay. I was in a global gathering with world leaders. We were talking about the financial crisis. We were talking about Wall Street gone bad. We were talking about 30 million people being thrown out of work because of the sins and the bad practices and corruption of Wall Street. We were talking about a dying planet. We were talking about 70 million young people unemployed. And what did little big man Darrell Issa have to talk about in front of these world leaders? I can take you to the roots of all the problems, said he. The United States Postal Service. I mean, and I got on, I was there with, thank God for email. I sent the email to Jim Sauber. I said, hey, Jim, where's Jim? Jim's here? Yeah, there's Jim. He's the brains behind our operation. Jim, I said, this guy Darrell Issa has just been talking about the US Postal Service. And he said, oh my God, I got some ammunition for you. So he talked himself out. But this was a global gathering of world's top leaders. And I pulled him to one side and I said, you are a disgrace. I said, you come from the greatest economy on the planet. You come from the greatest nation on this planet. We are here talking about world problems, and you as an American leader, the only one in that room, should be talking about solutions. It's neither the time nor the place to start running down the United States Postal Service, which, by the way, what gives you the right to come to a capital and start talking in breach of the US Constitution? Because it's a constitutional right to have the Postal Service. How's it going? I'm a bit jet-lagged, sisters and brothers. Just bear with me. Anyway, we are in the land also of the Donald. I've been looking for a definition of the Donald. Donald is most famous for his semi-intelligible speech and his temperamental personality. The Donald has a dominant personality trait, his short temper. His anger is a great cause of suffering in his life. On multiple occasions, it has caused him to get in over his head and his competitors. There are times when he keeps his tongue in cheek. He succeeds temporarily, but he always returns to his angry self at the end. I am, of course, referring to Donald Duck. I'm not sure. All the people at the back, I'm referring to Donald Duck. Can I have some noise at the back, please? Because only the people down the front clapping here. This guy must be the only US presidential candidate in history that takes Donald Duck as his mentor. Well, I thought that one worked quite well myself. on a serious note, I have to say we are so proud to have you as members, because in this global economy, with global trade, global communications, global business, global corruption, global tax evasion, there's one thing that we have globalized, and that is the voice of letter carriers and postal workers. You are there in the 52 states. We are present in more than 150 nations. Our message is that we will not be moved, whether it's in Africa and South Africa or in Tunisia, whether it's in Asia and the Pacific, whether it's in the Americas, North, South and Central, and in Europe, Central and East. We have a commitment to our postal services. We fight everywhere, all of the time, for you and the ideas that you represent. As you can see, I have the most perfect diplomatic skills to succeed in this job. And I don't mince my words when I'm talking to the WTO or the IMF or anybody else about the importance of postal services to our economies. Always, always, always underestimated. They make the wrong calls. So we don't shirk from those battles, and we resist those forces at work intent on breaking up postal services. Look, what message do I bring from this conference? And I've looked at the short statement that your President Fred Boyer Ronaldo made today. I mean, you know, if you listen to Darrell Issa, it's doom and gloom. Okay. But $1 billion, did I get that right, Fred? $1 billion in operating profit?
Yes, 1.3.
Sorry, I did get it wrong. It's 1.3 billion in operating profit. Thank you, the letter carriers. So immediately, I'm sending the message. I've sent it out. I'm tweeting like mad here. Get the message out to postal workers everywhere in all their lobbying efforts. All those talks of doom and gloom in the United States is not true. There's a $1.3 billion operating profit. That gives you legs. We wage a struggle for universal postal services. We are not dying. We are living, sisters and brothers, as letter carriers. And we're going to grow this business. I recognize the efforts that you have made and all those postal unions have made here in the United States during the years of attempts by the enemies of the Postal Service and a Republican-controlled Congress to strip away Saturday service and to begin dismantling the post office. 5-day delivery and the pre-funding issue, my God, Jim Sauber took me a month to explain to me pre-funding. I said, what the hell are you talking about, pre-funding? I like to save money, Jim, but what the hell are you talking about, pre-funding? Well, it's like this, you see. I don't know, thought about this, George Bush, or I'm not going to say his name again, had this idea. You have to pre-fund all the funding for a responsibility which is perfectly able of getting met from your day-to-day operating affairs. Was that it? God, I'm not as daft as I thought it was. But the point of it was, this was rotten and a corrupt idea to kneecap this organization and your service. It was a bald-faced attempt to break up and do away with the post office and thousands of middle-class union jobs. And they tried it everywhere. And at UNI, we stood with you, we stand by you, every step of the way along in this fight, just as we stand with sisters and brothers around the world as they have fought exactly the same battles. With mixed success in Europe, we delayed this by 30 years. We fought all these ruses and tricks and politicians' tricks to try and take away the postal monopolies and to try and reserve the reserved area with the reserve rate. And in the end, we managed to protect the universal service provision. And all the things that they said wouldn't happen, did happen. They promised More jobs, untrue. More mail, untrue. Better service, untrue. Lower rates, untrue. In fact, they delivered the exact opposite. And when we did the analysis of what this meant for our members, they have now much less enthusiastic and buried this idea of a privatized postal service system as part of the European Union project. So, it's clear, universal service, 6 days a week, every household and business in the country. It's not just good for the people, it's great for the nation, it's great for the postal services, and it's a promise that you've upheld for decades. I think it is the rock upon which the future of the industry is built. I know that the post office here traces its history to before the founding of the nation itself, with its mission inscribed in the Constitution, and with 20% of the service made up of veterans. Your dedication to a public universal postal service is as American as mom and apple pie, and that spirit will see the postal services through. I'd like to point out at this time that my brother-in-law is a US Air Force veteran. So, after 2 centuries of tradition, what does this future look like? You know the changes that are afoot and how that future looks like. You talk about it here and in all the seminars. But you and unions like yours around the world with UNI support are fighting for a future where the very changes that some say will kill the postal service can lead us to brighter days ahead. We know what internet has done to mail volume, but the massive wave of e-commerce promises to create millions of new parcels and packages in the years ahead. I like to talk about it as a postal comeback. This is morning for post, not good night post. Do you get me? Come on. This is comeback. America likes a comeback. The US Postal Service is a comeback, as postal services are everywhere. And together we're working with our retail unions around the world, in commerce and elsewhere, as unions tackle the question of how to build good jobs and union jobs in the e-commerce space. Now, we have to make our mark in the e-commerce space. We know how to do this thing. We know how to deliver, and quickly, and efficiently, and with a smile. We are the human face and the legs of the digital revolution, sisters and brothers. And that's the message we take around the world and to the UPU, whether it's the UPS, the DHL, and the Post Office. All those unions making their case through their unions and in their negotiations. It's what we do. We grow unions everywhere. We have a responsibility to grow postal and logistics unions in 150 nations, and that's what we do. We're trying to grow our union presence in multinationals. Fred mentioned global agreements. Now, that might be a new term to you. DHL, active in 175 different markets around the world. Deutsche Post, DHL. We have an agreement, in the end, brokered through the German government, that DHL will respect the right to organize and to negotiate in every single market where they are present. And that is the way that we try to put a more human face on globalization. And we intend to do the same in all those logistics companies, from FedEx to Amazon, GeoPost, and others. If a big logistics company has a market in other countries, our aim is to ensure that all of them respect the right to negotiate and respect the right to organize. We have another. Now, I'm not sure how you'll take this, but I agree. I want to change all of you into bankers. Do you agree with me? don't think about Wall Street now. I can see down there's a lot of wealthy people down here in this California group, all wearing gold and flashing diamonds and Lord knows what. And the idea is postal banking. Now, postal financial services has to be part of your future. And I'm pleased to see that you are leading the charge here in the United States. Now, you have so much in your favor, and the biggest thing in finance and in the world of money is trust. How proud are you to be the most trusted institution in the United States of America? I know your negotiations are not complete, Fred, but I think that's worth at least 5% on the dollar. And that's a testament to you, to the letter carriers who are the public face of the post office. If you look at the institutions which are the least trusted, and I'm not looking at the Donald Trump league table here, it's Wall Street and the banking community that brought this nation and the world economy to its knees. They cannot be trusted to deal constructively and fairly and give good advice to the ordinary men and women, working men and women of this country. There is a huge space in the market, and I believe the time for a U.S. postal banking service has come in this country, and because it's been done elsewhere. The largest taker of depositors in the world is the Japan Post, and we have the Japanese postal unions with us here today. Our office is based in Switzerland, and the most productive and successful bank in Switzerland, in a country which has very difficult locations up mountains and down dales and in very secluded corners, is the Swiss Post Bank, a massive success. It can be done, and I hope that you can deliver this in your next Congress period. The working people of this nation deserve a peoples-based banking service. And I can tell you another thing, because we represent financial services staffs. Those private commercial banks are the most anti-union, union-busting financial institutions on the planet. And then that, for me, busts the trust case. They cannot be trusted. There's one last struggle that I want to highlight, which is very significant and important. And this concerns a controversial subject here and elsewhere, because we've made it, and that is global trade negotiations. You heard a lot in this election campaign about undemocratic trade deals, selling out workers for the 1%, and it's all true. We cannot accept, as a democracy of universal suffrage, that we don't know what is going on in the negotiating process. That the door is closed to people like myself and yourself. And the worry is that the corporate community has a license to send its lobbyists into the room that are party to the negotiations, and you can be sure that the enemies of the Postal Service and of the Universal Services provision are present. And we are nervous about backdoor deregulatory clauses being shifted into 5,000-page trade agreements, about the establishment of legal mechanisms which only protect the privileged and the operators. And that's why, with these trade deals, we simply say no deal. In closing, we know your national elections are just around the corner. And I'm aware there's all shades of opinion here, as Fred mentioned this morning. But just allow me to provide some global perspective on what's at stake in this country in November. In the past months, we've seen the rise of some nasty and mean political forces, not just here, but around the world. They are political forces that appeal to the fears of working people. Fear about the future, fear of change, fear of losing work, making us feel bad about our own nations of which we are so proud. Fear of the immigrant, fear of the neighbor. They play on the anxieties of working people who are being left behind by globalization, left out by their traditional political allies, seemingly forgotten by a rapidly changing world. But I want to make something absolutely clear to you. The same people that spin that fear and anger and insecurity are no friends of working people. And nothing puts the fear in us more than the utterings of Donald Trump. I know yours is a big and diverse union. We also saw and felt the burn, and we recognized how Bernie Sanders and his supporters animated the primary process. I promise you that the global labor movement and millions of working people around the world are counting on you to hit the streets in the next 2 months, to get out the vote and ensure that Hillary Clinton wins this election. It is a message that we are sending to unions everywhere. It's important to the global labor community that Hillary is the next president. In closing, it is time to take our economies back. Nelson Mandela said that as long as poverty, injustice, and gross inequality persist in our world, none of us can truly rest. And I can assure you that our job is not done. At UNI Global Union, we fight for a better world. We know that the trickle-down theory of economics does not work. We cannot accept a world where the majority of the world's planet's wealth is in the hand of 50 people. You cannot accept a United States of America where 20 people have the equivalent in wealth of 150 hard-working Americans. We cannot accept a world where the polluters win, where the mighty don't pay their taxes, where they don't create jobs at home but are too eager to hide their taxes away from home. We can do better than this. We stand for inclusion, for a land free from discrimination. We stand for an economy which is inclusive. We stand for a land of fair pay, of collective bargaining, of education for all, of health and homes for all, and of decent work. And Hillary, if you're listening, that is the message that the world wants to hear. And Hillary, for God's sake, when you get in the White House, can you make sure that every American worker has the right to organize and the right to negotiate, and all those multinational companies do likewise? We are working together. We are working together and campaigning together to build strong postal services, fighting together to build a bigger and stronger labor movement. And when I come back to you, I want Fred to say, we are now a 300,000 strong union, fighting for working people here and around the world, building a brighter future together, making it happen. That's who UNI Global Union is. That's what the NALC is. That's what being union is. Thank you, NALC.
Thank you. How about a letter carrier chair for Phil Jennings? Hip, hip. Hip, hip. Hip, hip.